Welcome to the Dad Show podcast. How y'all doing? Today is part 2.
Renovated this house.
Yep.
And you've been in Maine for 4 years now?
I think 4 years. Yeah.
Almost 4 years. Wow. It's so crazy that
I
it's
know.
been that long. And so how's life been in Maine, man? Have you been able to connect with a lot of people and make a lot of new friends and build your family there? And
yeah, we've got really integrated. Kids are in the school system, obviously. We're in a very small town. I got a job. I've had quite a few jobs since I've been there. I did end up getting my construction business going.
Awesome.
Did that for a little while. So I accomplished that goal. Found out help is a little hard to get sometimes. Had to roll that back in a little, but that's okay. I've made not a lot of close friends. I've made a lot of acquaintances, a lot of professional relationships.
Mm-hmm.
I worked as an analyst for a while. I've expanded into a lot of different areas of nursing that I never really thought I would. So I've made a lot of relationships that way. My wife, she got a job that's like, she's way cooler than me up there. So right now I'm doing nursing. I'm working on some stuff in the background, but she'll come home some days and she's like, dealt with the FBI and stuff. She's a microbiologist at the CDC now.
okay.
When we started up there, she got a job initially running their COVID lab, or working in the COVID lab that was subcontracted through the state. And they were doing tons of samples, and she ended up running that thing and saw that all the way through.
Wow.
And then she transitioned over to the CDC as a microbiologist.
I can't even spell microbiologist.
I know. She'll say stuff some days. I'm just like, yeah, babe, that sounds awesome.
I have no idea what you're Google that real quick.
What in the world?
Yeah.
She does all kinds of cool stuff. It's like, I did something with the FBI today. And like, she can't tell me some things. I think that's really cool.
Oh yeah.
It's like a Mr. and Miss Smith, except I'm not Mr. Smith. I'm just the nerd that she tells us stuff to. She's like, yeah, I can't say it. I'm like, all right, I'm respectful. I don't ask.
I understand.
It's fascinating. Like, she gets these random calls, and she's really enjoying herself up there. So definitely she's done really, really well. My career up there, I went to all different areas and had a lot of fun with that. And so, we've got pretty integrated. I mean, it's pretty much home. We put out the landscaping every year and battle the neighbor. I see when he mows his yard first, and he typically does.
So you put your New Balance on, your cut off jeans, and
you put on
my
my
white socks. And,
put on my shorty shorts. Oh yeah. And I will tell you this, the grass grows so fast up there because it's mild temperatures. It rains a lot. You have to bag it.
Oh gosh.
God, we really are dads, aren't we? Yeah. This is where we go to.
All conversations lead back to mowing somehow.
Oh my gosh, it's so terrible. And if you let it go, you're spending another hour.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I had a lawn cutting business on the side, man, and some of the yards that, if you let them go more than 6 or 7 days,
that's awful.
It's terrible.
Yeah. And she's she's got so much landscaping in now. Of course, we can't just be regular. So
exactly.
In our house, we have these big hydrangeas in front of it and rose trellises, I think they're called. I don't know. I installed it.
That's exactly what they're.
We've done up the landscaping so nice. And so you got to go around all that. But she loves it.
That's awesome.
I'm just the dopey guy saying, what makes you happy today?
Exactly. Happy wife, happy life, right?
Yeah. So that's what I try to do. I don't always accomplish that, but that's where my intentions are.
How the kids transitioned, man? Have they?
Initially kind of slow, but it's when everybody was doing remote learning.
Yeah.
So they had some school, they had a lot of remote learning. once we got to the house we bought, they started at one school was about 45 minutes away. Then we got into our actual schools we're going to be with.
Yeah.
They started doing really good. They met friends, sometimes the wrong friends, but we got through that, and now they're doing really great.
That's got to be a tough transition for them, like especially during the timing of it. Because school is where you meet a lot of new friends and make you network and everything else, and for them to have to be at home and going through the remote learning and all that, dude, I can't imagine what hurdles they had to jump over.
Oh yeah. Oh, they were going stir crazy.
I would say so.
For sure. One of them, he homeschools, but Blake, he's like, I want to go back to school. Yeah. He's just over it.
Did they want to move back at all? Did once you got there, they had to do it?
I think when summer came around, they were kind of missing that big in-ground pool.
Oh yeah.
And quite frankly, we were too. But it stays cold up there till July.
Oh wow.
Like June can be cold at times.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, I was like, I would have opened my pool 2 months ago. So I mean, there was
Let's
some
move
of that.
back to Tennessee. Let's go swim.
Yeah, there was some of that, but overall, they've not verbalized to me anyway that they really, really want to come back.
I understand.
They miss things just like we do, but they've got good opportunities up there, so I think they like it.
Well, that's awesome, man. That's good. So I kind of want to switch gears just a little bit.
Okay.
And I'm looking at my phone for those that are watching on YouTube. Because Jamie made a post back on December 1st, and if you're okay with it, I'd like to just read it. It'll take just a second, but I think this is going to be a lot of the meat and potatoes of where our conversation's kind of going to go today.
Sure.
So your post says, I was sincere and honest last time, but it wasn't a real picture of it. You'd made a post and deleted it. And now you've made a new one. So I was sincere and honest last time, but it wasn't a real picture of it. I've struggled with alcohol. I've struggled with depression after my dad and my brother's death. The combo of depression and alcohol is a recipe for absolute destruction. Y'all see the happy and goofy front I've put on. Behind the scenes, I've been miserable mentally and tried to bandage it with alcohol. But demons swim, and not facing them only makes the problem get larger. I've taken a lot of steps in my mental health to get stronger. I've stopped alcohol 100%. My dad and brother died as addicts, and I refuse to follow in their footsteps. My wife has been there through all of this, and she's received at times the absolute worst of me. She's protected me and my reputation. She's followed me to hell and back. She's saved me from myself. If it were not for her, I wouldn't be here today. Her grace and dedication saved my life, literally. My gratitude for her is immeasurable. I'll say all this to say that we all have demons or problems. Had I reached out earlier or made an effort to address these things, it wouldn't have spiraled the way it did. Reach out, people. I don't care if we hardly know each other. I'll listen without judgment, and I'll keep it confidential. Her grace saved me. The least I can do is help someone else by listening. Thank you all for the comments last time. I read every one of them, and it helped me get past my depression and decision to kick alcohol 100%. It's almost been 2 weeks, and I haven't looked back, because my love for her is stronger than any craving, and my love for myself is getting better finally, and that helps. That's all I've got for now. There's a lot to unpack there. There's a lot.
Yep.
So let's touch on the first part of that, is that you've struggled with alcohol.
Okay.
How did you struggle? Obviously, I'm sure drinking a lot at times, but what did you mean by that statement?
Well, the struggle with it was, early on we drink and have fun with our friends, or, we find our social spot with it.
Yeah.
And then it can turn into just kind of a little sanctuary at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Let's just have a couple and go to bed, relax, watch a movie, whatever.
Yeah.
Cook dinner. Over time, if you continue that and don't stop, it kind of, you get a little bit more into it. And where I'd say I struggle with it, it's definitely true that addiction can run in families. You know, I really believe that.
Yeah.
Because anytime I would, deal with something, say, extremely stressful, I would just rely on that. And it makes it not stressful for a little bit.
Yeah. But then it comes back.
Yeah, it comes back. And
Yeah.
it makes it worse because of the way that alcohol affects you. You know, it really taps into that affective nervous system, and it makes things that aren't that bad sound even worse.
Yeah.
And you will convince yourself of that. So where I'd say I struggled was just that fact that, you can't, for me, I don't want to have any because you just go through all of them.
Yeah.
And, you're chasing the dopamine or chasing the dragon, as they'll call it in the, the drug world. But that's where I'd definitely say I struggled physically anyway with it. There's plenty of other ways you struggle when you're drinking.
Yeah, exactly.
That was my physical.
That was my issue. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, it's fine. I would say that's the physical struggle of it, outside of the consequences, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My biggest thing was, and I've got a lot to go with alcohol, but my biggest thing was I didn't see drinking as a sin. And I still don't to this day. If somebody's drinking alcohol when I walk into a restaurant or whatever, like that's you. I can't judge you. It's what I did when I drank. And so I was not a good husband. I would flirt, I would text, I would do things that a husband should not be doing with other women. And so when Kennedy got sick and was diagnosed with her disease, that's what I told God. I was like, God, I know you do not make deals. I'm not making a deal with you. Like, this is whenever I drink, this is something I do every time I drink. So this is the sin that I commit every single time, whether you heal Kennedy here on earth or you heal her in heaven with you, I'm never touching another drop of alcohol. And I think you've touched on it that, you feel better when you finally, for one, you see how strong you truly are when you can say no to something and overcome an addiction or something that you see is starting to take over you, whether that's alcohol or a phone or relationships or whatever the case may be. But number two, like, physically you feel better, without that being in your system. And those two things were huge for me, but something that's been the biggest and hardest hurdle to overcome is how many friendships and relationships, not relationships with women, but like relationships with friends and that people we normally hung out with have lost because I don't drink anymore.
Yeah.
That was, hey, Ryan, you want to go get a beer? And we would go wherever and get a drink. Like, those calls don't come in anymore. Those people don't come around at all anymore. And these were people that I considered my brothers. These were people that I would talk to on a daily basis and no longer in our lives at all. And so that's been the hardest and biggest hurdle. It's like, maybe I should start drinking again just so I've got friends.
Yeah. It could be lonely. Now, luckily, I didn't have a lot of friendships based in that.
Yeah.
So I was lucky there. I did drink with some friends, but they are respectful that, hey, I'm just going to choose not to. Like, okay, cool, whatever. Those are my lifelong friends. They get it.
I agree.
I don't mind for people drinking around me. But they're not going to offer me one.
Yeah.
Because they know.
Yeah.
And chances are if I went to grab one, they'd probably slap my hand. Because these are my brothers.
Exactly.
They'd be the one to protect me from myself.
Help you stay strong and cut you out.
Absolutely. Because it is hard to overcome. When people say, you don't love me more than alcohol or any addiction.
Yeah.
It's a hard statement to justify because you do love somebody more than it, but it's such a powerful force in your mind.
Yes.
I mean, you have to reprogram your brain.
Yeah.
No matter what led you there, you still have to get out of it.
Yeah.
I guess part of getting out of it's finding what did lead you there.
Yeah, exactly. Battling those demons. Cause just like you just hit on, normally you're trying to cover up, you're trying to hide something, you're trying to forget something. And going back to your past or whatever
Yeah.
is bothering you, you're trying to get rid of, is how you deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'm assuming this is a great segue into exactly what you have been dealing with, which is your dad and your brother's death. Your dad passed away, what, last year? Is that correct?
It was, last year, on my wife's birthday.
Yeah. And and then your brother passed away a few years ago. But obviously this has been bullying, and this is, then I'm assuming your dad on top of it has just compounded everything. And
yeah, it definitely did. And just the way it happened was the timing, the way it happened. It was hard to contend with. When somebody dies as an addict, things aren't exactly planned.
Yeah.
So I just really got rocking in my business, and I had to kind of shut it down. I had to come down here, and so I was angry for a while, and it's like, how could you do this to me? And of course you're doing it to me, which of course he didn't. That's something I got over.
Yeah. Well, let's touch on that real quick. Like,
okay.
You've got the anger of, like, you did this to me, and
right.
then you said, no, you didn't. So how did you come to that realization?
That took a little time. When I told you a week or so ago, I said, hey, oh, by the way, I found God. And you're like, what? And it was like a surprising statement. So I'm not sure where that's going yet. But what helped me with it was that I don't have to hold on to this stuff.
Yeah.
Because as I've studied psychology and I've become more interested in divinity and what turns on the lights to consciousness, basically.
Yeah.
There has to be something to this. And what I realize is that it is that relationship with whatever divinity is. And you can hang things up there. You don't have to carry it.
Yeah.
So that anger, my dad, he loved me to death. It was slightly toxic, but, it goes back to people's intentions and motives, I think. It's, I could misinterpret something. It's not my burden to carry.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be effective as a father, husband, whatever it is, I can't carry this stuff.
Yeah.
I carried it too long.
That's powerful.
And when you drink, it alcohol, and where it's demonic is that it'll tell you that your problems are bigger and that you're not strong enough to overcome them.
Yeah.
And I'd actually wrote an essay on this, on how alcohol is directly from the devil himself. Because it will take your mind to those places. It will take you to the depths of hell.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do that. So I think in learning, learning that, I don't need that, that I am stronger than all these feelings of things that could not even be real in the first place.
Yeah.
You got to let it go.
Yeah.
That's something my mom has told me, something right before my grandmother passed. This was last year. We had just got back from London. We were I think I talked to you, and then we flew to London like the next day or something.
I remember that. Yeah.
So the day before we come back, my grandmother passed away. And before we left, we didn't speak much because, she was sick. And so she just leaned down and kissed me on the forehead. She just said, God forgives. I was like, what? It's like, you never say anything to me.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, I didn't think much of it. And just these compounding things kind of led me. And I know I kind of went off on a little side route there, but those are the things that kind of led me towards saying, I did find it.
Yeah.
And just all these relationships I've found. And it's also helped me with the alcohol too.
Yeah.
It's, just that collective understanding that, whatever God is, it is good.
Yeah.
Because in there you can find serenity and peace to just hang things up at the least.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really the base level of analysis of it, because I'm sure there's much more depths to it.
Yes, 100% there is. But when my kids went through what they were going through, that's the biggest thing that I did with God was, and I think I say this on every single podcast, so I'm sure people are tired of hearing it, but I got to tell this story because it's such a huge testimony to what I've been through, and I feel like if you will do it, it will truly help you as well, meaning you and meaning the listeners as well, that I was like I'd got saved at a young age, and I was a Christian, but I wasn't living my life for God. And so I met a guy at work that we become close to and close with, and he had heard about Kennedy and what we was going through and all the above. And he said, Ryan, I was trying to walk in a new Christian faith. I'd got rebaptized and rededicated my life to the Lord and trying to walk a straight line, but I was like a brand new baby deer trying to walk. I was stumbling, I was falling, I was doing all the things, and he's seen that I was struggling. He's like, Ryan, I know you're trying to pray. I know you're trying to live your life for God. I know you're trying to do the right thing. He said, but there's going to come a day when you're not going to be able to say a prayer. You're not going to be able to think of a prayer, but just know that God understands your tears. And I was like, dude, you're so crazy. Like, no matter how hard I'm crying, I can always think of a prayer in the back of my head. And dude, it hit me one day at home. I was there by myself, and all I could do, I was crying and weeping so hard that all I could do was hit my knees and throw my hands up to God. And, it was literally, as soon as my hands went up, it was literally like he reached down and he picked it up off of me, and he took it. And I was able to stand up, go with my normal day, like just wipe my eyes and go. But in that moment when I stood up, and this kind of goes along with what you just said, was when I felt that weight lifted off of me and I stood back up, I took my hands like I was giving Kennedy to God and lifted them up. It's like, I can't carry this, but you can. You're the ultimate father. I'm just the earthly father. You can carry this and you can deal with this. I can't do this alone. And since then, man, it's exactly what you just said of hanging your burdens, hanging your heavy weights on him and letting him carry them for you so that you can be a husband, you can be a dad, you can be a good friend, you can be a good mentor, you can, all the things that men or people in society in general are called to be. By him carrying those for you makes it a whole lot. I mean, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it makes it a whole lot easier to continue on with life, man. That's so powerful.
Yeah, it does. And I think a lot of people, when they're in their search for divinity, God, whatever you want to call it, I think that they think it's all inclusive, all at once, at the same exact time. And I feel like everybody finds things differently. Yeah, I found it through studying psychology. And let me tell you, I'm insufferable when I'm trying to figure something out. Because I will take it to every level of analysis, and I will break down these stories. Like we were studying biblical stories and their psychological relevance to modern day. And I kept thinking, and I remember I bugged the heck out of my buddy Tim Gibbs, his parents, Betty and Dave, bless their souls, because they have had to put up with me. They're like my second parents. Yeah. But I would ask him these questions. I was like, okay, I've been studying this. What about this? And they're like, oh my gosh. And I say that to say that with Dave, Gibbs's dad, I went to see them when I was really struggling. Yeah. And this was back in April this year, back in, I believe, April. And I said, hey man, what advice would you give me? It's like, just what life advice? At this point, I've got nothing left. I'm falling apart. It's like, let's swing for the fences. What do you got? And it took about an hour, because Dave's kind of long-winded like me in the best way. Yeah. He really navigated his life. And this guy, he was a naval aviator. He's brilliant. He's so well researched. And what he came to for his conclusion.
Now, thank you for watching part 2, and come back tomorrow to watch part 3. Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Dad Show podcast. Please like, review, and subscribe.